Perfect.
Hey, hello everyone. This is Jeff Haller, and I'm with Clare Sandham, who is a participant and a member of my present IOPS training program. IOPS meaning Ideal Organization and Profound Strength. And it's a graduate level training program that invites people that have already been practitioners of, in her case, the Anat Banyel method, not necessarily, not the Feldenkrais method. It's inspired by the Feldenkrais method, but the Anat Banyel method. She graduated in 2021, but she has joined my IOPS training program. And so we're here to ask Clare about her experience of being in IOPS. And what was it, Clare, that you were looking for? You graduated in 2021, right before COVID. You started to develop an online presence, but something within you, after all the training and the beginning of your practice, you were still somehow you ended up in IOPS. How did that take place?
Well, when I finished my training, you I assimilated a lot of knowledge, a lot of information.
Yes.
And then I started working with clients. And that was oh my goodness. I really, it's not that I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, did feel out of my depth at first, for sure. But I kept seeing over and over again similar patterns. People would come in, they would lie down on my table, and I'd be observing, oh, why is person's head always to the right and they're bent laterally and their right hip joint is externally rotated. And I would see all these patterns in everyone's organization, and I didn't know what to do about it. I couldn't really piece everything together. So I just felt that, and I couldn't find the information anywhere because obviously it's uh, an experiential method. It's very hard to write about, and everyone is different. So I just felt like I was just lacking some, I don't want to say basic knowledge because I had basic knowledge.
Yes.
It was more like,
A person who graduates with a black belt in Aikido, for example,
yeah,
the black belt simply states that you have a basic level of proficiency in the beginning elements of the art. It just states that you've been well trained in the basic elements of the art, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're proficient at the following ranked levels. Yeah, and people who graduate from our basic training programs, a knots basic training or the Feldenkrais basic training, gives them a competence as a beginning practitioner. But it's that beginning practitioner is still has a lot to continue to learn in how to meet the public and to find a particular kind of ability to meet the public with a skill set that will help the public.
mhm. And I had so many questions working with clients. I just had so many questions, and I didn't know how to get the answers. And I wanted to further myself, further my knowledge. I wanted to get better. I'm very passionate about the work. And so I was looking for to do more training with someone, and you were recommended actually, very highly recommended
Wow.
from a few people actually.
Wow.
I know,
And you actually took the step to follow up on that?
I did,
that,
I did, and I was
that
actually,
speaks highly of you, of something that's within you that will take the next step to cross the gap in your understanding. That's really uh, that's cool that you just took that next step.
well, Jeff, this work is not something that you have to continue learning, and for me it's sometimes really overwhelming.
Yeah.
I feel a bit like, so in your training I've learned so much already. I was just uploading my homework last night, and I was like, wow, there's so much I don't know, but there is so much more I do know, right? Just from being in IOPS.
So give some examples.
Well, so I was analyzing my client in video. I videoed her.
So if you have, I'll just say this: you have homework. In this case, the homework is for you to have a client of yours walk, and you're to film them from front and back and from the side, and to take a look and to write down what you see. That's
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, that's the homework.
yeah,
And so, and then we do this work in class, and that's what I really like about class actually,
yeah,
is we observe one another, we observe ourselves, and everyone is different.
right,
So you think you know how one should walk or the organization, you know what to look for, and then you actually record a client and in slow motion, right? So it's easier to analyze. And then it's like, well, what are they doing?
right,
You can see that something is not right, but it's a whole process of trying to figure it out, and it's complicated.
yes,
So part of me is like, well, I know, I can see my client's support with the floor. She's
yes,
unstable, right?
yes,
We work a lot with spirals up and the force coming up through the skeleton from the feet. Work a lot with Jeff with learning about how to organize the foot. So that was really instantly clear to me. She was walking. Sometimes she came over on the lateral border of foot, and she was she was falling basically on the
right,
outside edge of her foot when it was a habit and a pattern. So that was like, okay, well, that was really clear to me, something that I can work with her on that's simple. Well, it's not simple. It is when you know what you're doing, that
right,
you taught us that material, but it makes sense to me. And so that's something I can work with her on. I think it will impact her whole organization. But then you look at the big picture, and there are many things that I couldn't quite figure out what she was doing, how she was organizing herself. Um, but then I took a step back as I was writing my observations. It's like, wow, I actually know quite
yes,
a lot more than when I came in. And that's the thing with the work. There is so much more to learn always. And that's why I like doing this work, because
right.
I'm curious and I get bored easily, and I can't get bored with this. Yeah.
So, I mean, in the class, we take basic principles. They're biological, biomechanical principles that Feldenkrais elucidated in his training process. When we go through the first round of training, we're so busy just experiencing ourselves that we don't really know how to pay attention to these very clear biological principles that Moshe elucidated, but to turn them into an understandable practice that we can utilize within ourselves as a basis from which to see another is the point of IOPS. Would you agree with that?
I would totally agree with that.
Yeah.
And one of the first thing we did it was just like a big aha moment for me, was um, observing people's patterns from when they were younger. So flexion on one side was probably that's where you learned to roll and came to sit,
Yeah.
versus lengthening on one side, um, rolling over. That's where you probably rolled over. So observing and identifying those patterns in myself and then in other people now is amazing, and I can take those skills and help them figure out other ways to move because they're kind of stuck in these patterns, right?
Right. So IOPS is taught in 4 live segments with mentoring between the classes, online mentoring classes. And so the 4 live segments, the first segment is about looking and discovering patterns. So you just spoke to that, and
Yeah.
learning to see patterns that are hidden in the fabric of the way that we moved from the beginning since we were children, that still exist in the way that we are as adults. And then the second course is what we call, finding the roots of internal strength. That means how to find stability. You're smiling. It's a question of how do we find real internal composure and strength within ourselves. So what does it look like for us to find a sense of composure that can meet a changing world? So that's the second course. The third course is the one that you're studying for now, which is perspectives on walking. And so you're watching people walk, and you can find out whether they're stable or unstable. You can see from the patterns, the material, why it is that they would tend to fall into one side over and over again, or why they have their head here, or why their shoulders hang in a particular way. These patterns become more and more clear because of the way they find support within themselves. The last course will be how to compose functional integration lessons. But all this material that we're doing already brings us to the point, that we're ready to compose lessons because we know so much. So,
Yes. Oh, I feel like my practice has really improved already. Absolutely. I'm able to really help people a lot more and figure out what they're doing. So I kind
right.
of, and the one thing that I love observing about you when you walk is when you work is how you integrate, how you integrate what someone is learning in an FI throughout the lesson. That to me is it's priceless. That kind of observing you and also experiencing that myself in FI. Yeah, that is taking it to another level, and that's the kind of practitioner I want to be.
Yes.
You know,
That's the
it's
kind of practitioner that we want in the world. We want you to be just this giant magnet and having just people just being drawn to your door because they're so interested in finding for themselves a higher quality of their own experience.
yeah. So this integrating however you're working with the client, how you're touching them, moving them, integrating it into something that they can take away with them and that's lasting. That to me is the key in what I'm learning with you, actually. That is what I mean, I'm learning a lot and my observation skills, but that is really a big part of what I'm learning and what I'm trying to incorporate into my own practice, actually.
Yeah, a person who just begins their practice after their first training, so to speak, they they, they oftentimes have a huge impact with people in a way that's mysterious.
Hmm.
And they're not quite sure of how they engage with the person, and the person gets up and thinks, well, I feel really good, but they're not necessarily a conscious part of the process by which they utilize their own internal ability to question and observe and to sense. That whole process, that internal process for them isn't necessarily the kind of lesson that a beginning practitioner gives. But in IOPS, we begin to learn how to be in this dialogue with the students so they can find the answers within themselves through the information that we offer.
Yeah.
Yeah. I,
And
I, I put it to words because it's hard to state.
it's very hard to state. And I think what you're doing a beautiful job of clarifying and understanding what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, good. Yeah. Well, what else? I mean, first of all, I mean, it's a lovely group. It's it's great to be in a live class again.
It's lovely being in a live class, and I like the size of the class. It's not too big,
Right.
and I really enjoy the way you and Andrew teach in that it's a very open environment and a very safe place.
Beautiful.
And I feel very comfortable asking questions.
Beautiful. So we should let people know that Andrew Gibbons is my assistant in the class.
Yeah,
He's been a student of mine and an assistant of mine since about 2014. So he's very deeply versed in the work and is beautifully crafting and creating his own way of working within the principles that we're working with. So he's a real addition to the class.
he is, and I think you chose well with your assistant because you both have different skill set,
Right.
and so if we're trying to learn something, trying to teach us something, Andrew will always have a different way to explain.
Yes.
So and it's if something is like doesn't make sense with either of you, the other person may say it differently, and then it's just a different communication style.
Right.
So it's easier to learn that way, I think.
It's a particular type of informational triangulation.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just one voice that you
Mhm.
hear or don't hear, but another voice that provides a different view. It's so interesting. Moshe was raised he was yeshiva trained in what a town called Baranovich in Russia. And so that means that he had very, very intense training in the Talmud and the Talmudic tradition. And so as he was young, he would first of all learn to argue a point from one point of view. The next year, he would learn to argue against the other point of view. And then the third year, he would learn to argue relative to both points of view, so
Oh.
that you would learn to see things in many, many different ways, so that you weren't ever fixed in your opinion, but you were learning how to learn and how to actually be in the state of asking questions. And Moshe was brilliant at that. He never became fixated on any particular paradigm. He kept creating a paradigm that had the possibility of being open-ended, uncertain outcomes, nonlinear pathway through the learning process. And it's so important that we follow that tradition in the IOPS process, which is to create information from different point of views, and to do our very best to make sure that everybody's can be in the state of question and be free to ask questions.
One thing I really like about the training is the way you present the information. So you introduce something,
Yep.
a concept, and I think, okay, I have an understanding of that. But then slowly, slowly, it's like peeling off the layers of an onion. Then we learn it in a different way, and then something else is exposed until finally it's like, wow, I thought I understood that, which I do, but then there's more to it, and it's very gradually, and then it's like, wow, I really didn't have a good idea of that when you first introduced it, but now it's like my understanding is getting deeper and deeper, and I feel like, wow, I think I really do understand it. But it's not until you keep teaching it in a different way each time and exposing the material differently until it's like, wow, yeah, I think I really understand that now, which.
So you're really in learning the art of being an autodidact, of actually learning from your own experience and learning how to form your own questions relative to the basic principles, the biological principles that underlie this method.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, exactly. And it's really great for acquiring knowledge that way.
Beautiful.
I can use it. I can implement it a little differently. I can
Sure.
experiment with it, all those things. Yeah.
So tell us about your own walking experience.
Oh, my own walking experience. Well, that's been quite a journey because,
I know we had a really, really a nice FI lesson at the end of the first segment that had to do with your walking and standing and finding support moment by moment as you move from one foot to the next, with all kinds of ideas and principles in it.
yeah, that was the most profound FI I've ever had. And the FI I learned the most from about my organization and what I think what was possible.
Yeah. I
Right.
think we have, I think that was videotaped. I think we have a copy
Yeah,
of it.
it's videotaped. I felt incredibly different after the class. The way I was standing, the way I walked, I've never felt like that in my life. I felt I was a different person. I've never experienced that before. And I really didn't know who I was for a little bit.
Yeah. You didn't have the usual tension of the way that you identify your self-image, the way you maintain your self-image. So you were
Absolutely.
outside of that image for a while,
I was outside of that image for a while.
right?
And and it's a shame actually I was in class.
Yes.
I should have just, it's a shame that I should have actually just left the room, I think, because I didn't stay with it for long enough, but I can still remember that.
Right. Yeah.
I can still remember that. I can still remember it's a possibility.
Right. It's a doorway into a lifelong process of a lifespan learning process.
It absolutely is. I've never felt so open in my life, so grounded, so like in my body. That sounds like a cliche,
Yes.
but it, I have never experienced that before.
Beautiful.
It was unbelievable, and yeah, so it's given me an insight into what's possible,
Yes.
and so I'm working, throughout the training, and the demand is a high demand for sure, right? If you embark on the training,
Yes.
um,
It is a course, and it has homework, and there's a lot of study between segments. There are 4 videotape workshops that I gave in the past that people study to prepare themselves to come to the segment. So it's not just a one-off course where you come and you have this advanced training, or then you add another advanced training. This is a course that that you that you go through. There is a linear progression through the course. The outcomes are nonlinear,
mhm.
open-ended, but it's also it, I mean, part of the guarantee is that our sense is, and what we do is we help practitioners be more proficient, so they can take care of their own. They can harvest, financially a more secure place to be for themselves, to sustain themselves. It's very important that the practitioners of this method be able to sustain themselves, support themselves in a way that's not at a poverty level, but at a very, very nice professional level. That's my spiel.
Yeah,
And
I
I,
mean,
I think we do. I think we help that.
I definitely think this course helps that. I'm a lot more confident now in talking to my clients, but also, so one thing that we do is we also, one of the segments is based perspectives on walking, right?
Yes, it's coming
And
up. See you
yeah, and
in June. Yeah.
yeah, but it's not. I mean, we're learning throughout the whole training.
Yes.
We don't just start in one segment. You learn from the very beginning,
Yes.
perspective of walking. And so one of the things I'm taking this knowledge and I'm incorporating it into my practice, because everyone gets up from the table and they want to know how to walk.
Yes.
And so and it's an important piece. I mean, I sure want to know how to walk more efficiently because I spend a lot of time walking,
Yes.
right? So, so, so I feel that, and I didn't have that knowledge. I
Right.
feel that I wasn't confident, and people always ask, "Well, how can I walk better?" And especially if you're working with elderly people,
Yes.
I think it's a necessity.
Yes.
So that is really big. I'm using that in my practice and helping, and I'm confident I can help people, and
Yeah.
they're getting more confident in me and my ability. So they're getting more out of my sessions.
And if you really watch, you're so alert when they walk in. They've already told you so much, just in the way that they present themselves as they walk in the door, take off their coat, put down their purse, take off their shoes. They've told you so much about their general state of how it is they interact and live in the world of gravity. And it's not very difficult to say, geez, they could really have a different aesthetic appreciation for themselves. And
Mm.
and I think it's really our job to invite them into that sense of, oh, what's it like for them to experience elegance or grace or just a kind of a sense of ease, like, oh, geez, the world isn't, I'm not as heavy in the world as I was. Yeah.
I know, yeah.
Yeah.
And walking, we have to incorporate it into walking,
Yes.
integrate what they learn on the table into walking.
Yes.
So that's really been quite powerful for me.
Right.
Um, Another aspect of what I'm learning with you, which is actually been huge, is finding support.
Yeah.
So obviously, this finding support when you're walking through the
Yes.
feet, right, and up.
Yes.
with the femurs and the rest of the skeleton. But using the surface to help people figure out how to support themselves, how to move, how to support themselves when they're moving. It's just been a game changer
Right.
with all my clients. And I see a few clients regularly, and even stroke. I'm finding my stroke clients, um, it's been amazing because neuromuscularly, I think they're learning more. When you ask people to support themselves on the table, you take a little bit of the support away, and they're really having to engage in the process.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
the learning is just so much more powerful. And I see my clients are just progressing way more. The people with real neurological needs, it's been really a game changer for them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an art. Moshe understood it, but I don't know that he was so gifted at really portraying it. He could speak about it, and of course, we don't have any knowledge of what Moshe would have done in the last had he not had his own difficulties in 1982. What he would have done with the training that I was in, the Amherst training, but uh, he left behind principles and material that if you're willing to really delve into and ask the questions, there was one thing that tickled me. He was just talking, and then all of a sudden out of his mouth came, in walking, we feel the head of the fourth metatarsal. And in walking, it's like walking like our legs are a wheel. Do you have any idea that took me 20 years to solve? Because there
Well,
wasn't anybody else asking the question, what does that mean? Everybody else was giving lessons that with the idea of how do I make a person more comfortable or more fluid? But it doesn't necessarily mean how do I touch the floor in such a specific way? And what is this fourth metatarsal? And then how can I convey these ideas to students in such a way that they can convey the ideas in specific ways so people can find better and better support? Yeah, because that's not really a part of the general training process to ask this level of specificity for the students who are the students are just learning what's right and left and how to roll over themselves and how to make this connection or that connection. I mean, I believe we take people in IOPS to, instead of being, first degree black belts in awareness through movement, I think we help them become third or fourth degree black belts in awareness through movement. They learn to find within the lessons another level of contact that changes their experience in such a way that they become more proficient in helping people. That's my maybe misguided estimation, but I actually believe that's what's taking place.
I agree. That's been my experience so far with my clients, and especially kids.
Right.
With the kids, I
Yeah.
was just working with a kid, helping him, you know, um, come up to sit through his side, lifting his head. We're working on, and I was just use the table, my exactly the way you would like put my hand under his ribs, press into my hand with your ribs, and sure enough, he figured it out. He was
Beautiful.
very disorganized, but it literally took a little bit of clarification around using the table, putting my hands in the right place, and he figured it out in 5 minutes. What normally would have taken me a lot longer, I think, maybe a couple of
The
F5.
lessons, maybe.
Yes, he
Yeah.
figured it out very quickly.
Yes.
So that was beautiful. I was very excited.
I'm so happy to hear it. Tickles me. It really tickles me. So for anybody who might be interested in IOPS, would you think it's a good idea?
Oh, without a doubt. It's amazing. And you and Andrew are really great.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed learning from you guys. And I think I would do it again if I if I could.
Well, I don't have any objections to people attending. I mean, that's in my regular training programs. I don't give too many of them, but there is always room for practitioners and people that I've trained to come in and be a part of the training process. So
Yeah, no, I think it's great. And I think the more like I'm exposed to that kind of work you're doing, the better practitioner I'm going to be. So I'm really grateful that you're offering this. And you're so generous as well with your knowledge. You're so generous. I really, really appreciate that too.
Yeah, well, I really truly want people to become. I want this. I want the legacy of the Feldenkrais legacy to continue to grow.
And that is very clear. And you are very passionate about really helping us all of us upgrade our skills and become better practitioners. So
Thank you so much.
You're very generous with your knowledge
Thank you.
and time for us. Yeah.
There's no reason to hold anything back. You know, it really is truly about how can I serve the people and have as much hands-on contact as I can. When we're doing FI practice in the class, I'm always around and
Yeah, and that's exactly what I mean.
yeah,
Like walking around, watching what we're doing, helping us find a better way to do something, helping us as practitioners organize ourselves better when we're giving FI.
yeah.
And you're that's so hands-on and helping us really improve our skills, which is great.
Thanks, Claire.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thanks for taking this time to hang out with me.
Oh, I really enjoyed it. Thank you, Jeff.
It's the nice thing is that that there's a we develop this kind of correspondence of a real appreciation for each other, and it can become so collegial actually in the class. It changes hopefully by the end of the IOPS that it's even more collegial. It's not the same relationship between teacher and student. It just becomes more and more of a
Less
sharing,
hierarchical.
a
Yeah, less
dialogue.
hierarchical. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, no, I'm really enjoying the training and I'll be sad when it's over.
Yeah, me too. All right. Thanks, Claire.
Thank you, Jeff.
All right.